Well, hello. My name is Janet Casson. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the Education Program Coordinator of Community Engagement here at Des Moines Performing Arts. And I feel very honored and delighted to be in company with these fine people today. These are some of the cast members of the touring company of 1776. This production is playing at Des Moines Performing Arts through Sunday, March 19th. And these lovely individuals help bring the story a whole new life. So I would wonder, first, would y'all introduce yourselves and maybe tell us the role that you play in this production?
Yeah. I am Dr. Josiah Bartlett. That is my stage name. But my real name is Sav Souza. And I use they, them pronouns.
Yeah, you do.
Hi. It's just me.
Well, my stage name, honey, is the Courier, because he's nameless. No name over here. But my name is Brooke Simpson, and my pronouns are she, her.
I play George Reed, and I wear these exact glasses on stage.
Yes,
My name is Quinn Wood, and I use she, they pronouns.
I can't follow up with that. I play Andrew McNair, Congressional Custodian. My name is Tiffany Barbour, and I use she, her series pronouns.
Yeah. I want to just first comment that your character might be nameless, but you give it a whole...
Exactly.
Like, there's a
Thank
whole
you.
lot that we get to know about your person. Y'all have to just come see it. That's the whole deal. That's what we're doing. So we have put what this company has called essential questions in front of our audience with handouts in the lobbies, and we put them on display for our wider community at the central branch of our public library. A replica of the 1776 mural is up on display there and will be through the month. So go check that out. And I was wondering if you all, those of you who've worked with the essential questions, if you can kind of describe what they have done for you, how you've used them in your work.
For sure, I can say a little bit about it. For me, I'll speak on myself. These questions for me have been a really useful tool to find my way into the material and into a time period that, my story as a trans person in America, I was not included in, not all of, but a lot of the documentation of this time. And so the history feels a little bit hard to connect to. And so these questions were really useful for me in terms of finding a way to care about the material and to care about our history. And through those questions, I've been able to investigate the ways in which trans folks have always been intertwined in the fabric of America.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what Sav was saying so beautifully, the thing is, like, trans people, indigenous people, people from all different parts, we've always been a huge part of American history, but I feel like it took these questions, whether it was in different interviews or the conversations that we were having in the room preparing for what we are now doing on stage, it's those questions that help me actually see myself in the moment and not just see the character that I was portraying or the history that I was telling, opposed to the parts that have been left out because we weren't invited or had a seat at the table,
They nailed it.
Well, just to, instead of being a teaser, y'all can know what some of the essential questions are. In creating the Declaration of Independence, what mattered? How can we hold this history as a predicament versus an affirming myth? That's a big one. A big one. How is my story part of American history? And I think you've answered that a bit already. And how does an honest reckoning with our past help us to move forward together? So that's something I'd love to talk a little bit more about. In the playbill, we have a note from your directors that they quote Brian Stevenson saying, "People do not want to admit wrongdoing in America because they expect only punishment." And I feel that a lot in conversations about anti-racism, as far as folks like, oh, I don't want to be held accountable because that means I've done something wrong. It's punitive, as opposed to my relationship matters with you, which is why I'm telling you you can do better. I see this playing out in a lot of parts of our nation, and especially here in our state, where folks don't want to be made to feel guilty for events that took place in history. And I'm wondering if you all have a response to that avoidance.
Well, that's one of the things that I really have enjoyed about our show, because as far as like the education that I got in the public school system, I feel like when I read about our history, I saw everybody sort of as like these two-dimensional figures, as like completely infallible or villains. It's like one or the other, very black and white. And I feel like the beauty of theater, even though obviously we're not actually in 1776, spoiler, but like we're all in this room together and we're portraying these events. So I feel like there's some sort of shared humanity that we can bring, like a three-dimensionality to it. And to me, that's helped me create like a greater understanding within myself of the fact that these were just people trying to do their best. And I think that that's something that I think everyone in our country could really like take a second to try and internalize, because you know these difficult questions and like arguments and all that, like that's all important, but most of the time people are just trying to do the best they can. So
Right.
this whole process has sort of helped me with that.
Yeah.
It's definitely, that's a very good point. And I think that is lost a little bit because it is such a drastic and weighted, or show, and the material in it is very heavy. And what had to happen and what to get us where we are now and where we still need to get to. But that's a really good way to put it, as they were trying in their own way to do their best. And I think the audience sees that in us. And so you can tell a little bit here on the road as far as what I've noticed a little bit, and I won't give it all away. But at the opening of the show and how reactions are a little bit, like people are very excited, which is great. And I've heard a couple, like lately, just a different reactions once the show kind of gets going and our curtain opens up. And I think people know what to expect, but they also don't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. They've read a little bit, they've maybe seen some pictures of us, and but not really knowing what it was really going to be. And then leaving and thinking and standing on their feet and really realizing what this really can be and what it really means to them in that way of not feeling that, what that possible, nervousness or that I don't want to talk about it kind of, and what our show brings out in the forefront for them to see and to realize and to feel in live theater. I think, you can see it on the road for sure. Yeah.
And I also think it's important to remember that these founding fathers were kind of seen as they were organizers. They were activists. They were rebelling. They were doing really big work and really big work that caused a lot of harm down the line. And I think it's interesting to think about, when we are holding them up on such high pedestals of like, we must treat this country with the same respect that our founding fathers did and stuff. And it's like, yes, we should treat this with the same respect. And also like with the same respect that we should care for it in the meticulous creation and editing of this country as we grow as a nation. And I don't think that the founding fathers, ever thought of this country as something meant to be frozen in time. Yeah. And I think that, there's a sort of memorializing of that moment, which makes us want to freeze that time and makes people want to hold on to the good old days and, and things like that, these American myths that we're taught. And I think that being in this show and watching these men do this very active work, it's a reminder that we can't really use these icons as excuses to preserve an ancient America that doesn't fit us anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and just reminding us that everything amazing that they were doing was also amazingly done on stolen land.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
100%.
Yes. There is something very visceral, like a sort of subconsciously visceral experience of hearing the words of who we understand to be white men coming out of the mouths of this cast that I was struck by, and like this sort of cognitive dissonance of as you have indicated and said in many different ways, that these words were not written with any of us in mind, right? And so, how does that, does that inform how you bring your character to the stage? Does that, how do you deal with that cognitive dissonance? Because that's pretty dramatic, I'd say.
For me, it felt really important to I have had top surgery as a part of my gender affirming journey, and I'm so grateful to have had access to that life-changing resource. And I made the decision in building my costume in creating a visual cue of that cognitive dissonance, that cognitive dissonance that was really important to our costumer, Emilio Sosa. I was like, I want to be able to flag somehow visibly, like, my transness. It has been erased in this country, and I don't want to participate in that erasure. I want to literally make it impossible not to see. So I wear a see-through shirt, and you can see my top surgery scars. And that felt like really important to me in investigating that and sitting with that.
Adding on, talking about our costume and stuff, I have parts of my heritage and my culture in my costume as well, like the medallion that I wear as I, do the land acknowledgement at the top of the show and wear it throughout the entire show. It's something that's been in my tribe and in my family for over 30 years, so it's that along with like different jewelry pieces I wear. It's reminders of one, like I said, it is stolen land that we're telling this story about and on, but also it's a reminder that we're still here, even though there's, sadly not really mention of the original people of this land in the show. So I'm here as the reminder.
Just as an insert, because you did this from the stage, and I know you will continue, but thank you for that acknowledgement. So we are having this conversation at the Civic Center in what is now known as downtown Des Moines, which is the traditional lands of the Iowa and Bakoji people. So I want to pay honor to that as well.
Thank you.
Just as you do. Any more thoughts about that? Like, how you make this person who may or may not feel like you have anything. I mean, clearly we do have things in common. But they weren't thinking about us necessarily. So.
Right. It's interesting to me, the whole conversation about it, because I think that this may be not a shared opinion amongst all of us, but I personally, when I'm on stage very specifically as George Reed, I am not thinking about the cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's part of my job as an actor to just like accept what's happening, and my gender doesn't have anything necessarily to do with that. Like, it's almost like the concept is more like for the audience. It's like I am to be perceived as like this 2023 version of myself and whoever I am, but like internally all I'm doing is like reacting to what's going on around me and fully investing in these circumstances. But I do think, not to say that it's not important, like it absolutely is, but like that's why some of these like visual signifiers are so important. Like, I don't know, I specifically was like, I want my tattoos out. Like, I want to keep my piercings in, all that stuff, So I think that, and Diane Paulus and Jeffrey Page, they talked a little bit with us about like the Brechtian half curtain and all of that stuff, and the fact that we don't want people to get absolutely lost in this story, but all of those like visual signifiers, I think, are not necessarily for us as the actor in real time to be thinking about in relation to telling the story. But I don't know how y'all feel about that. But
I kind of agree with you as far as for what I need from my character specifically, because there wasn't really, I didn't necessarily have any, not that I didn't have any options of what I was going to wear, but I kind of didn't have, I could pick that jacket or that apron or that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I didn't really have that kind of exploration, what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't able to really get my arms wrapped around anything that might be me for my character, because he is a custodian and was an actual and worked in the Congress, in first and second Congressional Congress. So I add me and him as what I would do as an actor with any character to put him on his feet, because there isn't a lot known about him. So there wasn't really any. I'm playing him as I would be playing him as myself. So I guess in that way it is, I'm injecting something, but I didn't really have those kinds of options as far as to add to him, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Well, and that is your work as actors, right? Is to take on this role, to be this person, and let us all, I guess, grapple with how we are perceiving that story. Like you're saying, not getting lost in it, but recognizing, oh, something about this feels different, right? And like having that be back on us as the audience, I think is really powerful. Oh man, there's so much I want to talk about. But I guess I'm wondering if we could be real. We've been really real. What am I saying? I was going to say be really, really real. It's a hard time in the world right now. Maybe not as hard as it was in 1776. I don't know. That seems like a hard time too. But there are continuous attempts being made to silence conversations like this and to erase certain people's stories. And I'm really grateful personally for the perspective shift and inspiration that you all share in this production. And I know that a lot of people will be bolstered by it, by seeing this story told in this way. And I just wonder if you have any advice, any inspiration. I mean, you have so much, but anything that you would want to just hope that we take away from this experience of watching you all this week.
I mean, I would say, as there are hundreds of anti-trans bills sweeping the nation right now, being in a room where we are like creating bills every day, on stage, I'm thinking a lot about the folks who are trying to take away my rights in this country and who are doing that at the same very moment that I'm doing that, sitting in a room, not caring about everyone else and trying to further a political agenda. And I just hope that when folks come, they can watch the show and think about that, and think about, are there moments when they're seeing the courier limp through the Congress? Are they feeling empathy in their hearts for like, oh wow, this group of men don't care about this person who is deeply affected by the things that they're talking about? And I would invite audience members to think about the ways in which they can connect to that, and connect to that fire that is lit inside of them when they feel that. And if you're feeling passionate as passionate as maybe John Adams feels in the show, go out there and make noise about what it is that you're upset about, and see how you can get involved and how you can be active and vote and spread the word about things, and contact your local representatives, and be a part of the voice to help stop all of this terrible legislation. So that would be kind of, my personal hope and invitation for folks.
Yes, and amen.
I also would love, part of a big hope for me too, in general, with live theater in general, but specifically with this show, that we can encourage more brown and black people to come in the audiences.
Yeah.
And we haven't done enough outreach with our show with that either, to include those people, and that was also part of the hope, that we could get those audiences to come, because when people come, I guarantee, when people come to see the show, they I won't say they either hate it or love it, because that's not the truth. I think everybody gets something out of it and takes something good with them within it, whether it's their favorite or it's not their favorite, or they thought it was amazing and on up. But I really wish that we could open, and as we continue to travel across the country, that those things are really, really implemented more, and we can get more folk, brown and black folk, to come and see this production with these voices. It's also very important, and would be my wish for it.
Well, I'm so deeply grateful for y'all being here, and not only here in this conversation, but being here in Des Moines, sharing this story. And I hope that all of you will make an effort to get to the Civic Center this week and check it out. You will not be sorry that you did. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.